Can you imagine what it must have been like? On Friday, Jesus faced a trial and crucifixion. Thursday evening, after the wonderful meal that they shared, the soldiers showed up and arrested him. All of the disciples scattered and fled. Peter denied ever having known Jesus. Judas, of course, betrayed him. None were there. They had Friday evening. They had all day Saturday to sit in the pain, the fear, the guilt, the grief, the loss, the wondering, what now? The entire event had been traumatic. They were expecting something else from Jesus than what happened. And early in the morning, once the Sabbath was over, Mary, before the sun was up, probably because she had not slept, and she needed to do something, and she wanted to go and complete the preparations for Jesus' body. So she makes her way to the tomb and discovers that it has been tampered with. That must have been her first thought, right? Uh-oh, what's happened? And she looks in and he's not there, and then she runs. She runs back to the upper room to tell the disciples that something's going on, something has happened. She doesn't yet know what, but she knows that something has happened, and these weren't joyous running at this point. They were confused steps. They were the steps running for somebody to say, help me with this, help me to make sense of it, help me to act. So Peter and the disciple who is not named, we always assume it's John, but it never says anywhere in the book of John that it is John, the disciple whom Jesus loved. They run. Now, it's still early in the morning. In a city filled with people for the Passover, most are still there, that is under occupation by the Roman forces. Now imagine two strange men running through the city early in the morning might get some attention, right? And the disciples, they were actually hiding in fear because the authorities might come after them. But throwing all caution to the wind, they run through the city out to the tomb. The disciple who is not named gets there first, but he hesitates, or he doesn't look in yet. I think because he was trying to take it in. The stone has been moved. I don't know what to do. But Peter, always the rash one, the one to burst in and take action even before he thinks, looks into the tomb and sees that it is indeed empty. And then the other disciple also looks in, and they see that the cloths, the burial cloths, the shroud, had been neatly folded. I saw a meme the other day, something about the really miraculous thing is that a man folded his laundry. But they started in that moment to believe. But as we read throughout the rest of the story and through the book of Acts, making sense of what it was that they came to believe in that moment would take a while. Would take some debate and wrestling and prayer and thought and action and conflict. But Mary, standing there, Peter and the other disciple have left to go back to the upper room, and Mary's standing there weeping. Can you imagine? It's shocking and hurtful and painful enough what happened to Jesus with the crucifixion. And now somebody has taken his body, and all of that pent up fear and hurt and grief and anger comes out in tears. Now, have you ever cried in that deeply emotional state? You know, these aren't sniffly tears. I think these were coming from the gut, bawling, unstoppable tears. The kind of tears where you're crying so hard you can't even catch your breath. And she sees two angels and asks them, what has happened here? And they ask her, well, why are you looking for Jesus? Why would you expect him to be here? He told you. And she turns around and sees the gardener, and it's only when he calls her name that she sees him for who he is. Each one of us, we have our own experiences of grief and pain and doubt and fear and anger and conflict. And we look at the world, whatever is going on. Maybe these days are a little more tumultuous than normal. But always, no matter how at peace and comfortable we are, isn't there a sense of us that's always waiting for the other shoe to drop? Knowing that someday there's going to be some disappointment, some loss, some grief, some anger. Something is going to happen in life. It's going to be hard. The message of Easter, I believe, is not that Jesus' resurrection on that Sunday morning means that we will never experience the difficulties of life again. But what it means is that in the midst of all of the pain, confusion, fear, loss, tears that just won't stop, or tears that just won't start, that Christ is there. And if we can, in those moments, listen, because I believe that always Jesus is whispering our name to us. Bobby, Robin, Ken, Jen, Nancy, Sandra, Betty, Pam, Yvonne, Sue, Gordon, Cindy, Terry. I can't list everybody's name, I'm sorry. But in each moment of our lives, Jesus is calling to us to let us know that he is with us. The empty tomb, the resurrection, it's about Jesus being victorious over all of the stuff in our lives that make us weep and angry and fearful and doubtful. It doesn't eliminate it. It, in fact, is the stone that is rolled away. All of that stuff of life is the stone that is rolled away from the tombs that we live in. In fact, it is because of all of the stuff of life that Jesus Christ and his resurrection even means anything to us. Otherwise, it's just a great idea. It's just a nice sentiment. That's a good story. I'm so glad God did that. But when we experience it in that kind of dramatic moment, whether that dramatic moment is intense and loud or small and timid, Jesus is there calling our name. Jesus is there risen, letting us know that he is already victorious over all of the mess. Jesus is, in fact, perhaps folding the shrouds that we wrap ourselves in so that we can leave them behind and live into the life of Christ. Haltingly, making many mistakes, tripping along the way, and at every point, Jesus is there, calling our name, taking our hand, leading us on. As Paul says, that he was convinced that there is nothing in life or in death that can separate us from the love of God in Jesus Christ. And we know this to be true because there was no cross, there was no nail, there was no crown of thorns that could separate Jesus from the love of God in him. There's a lot of stuff in the world, a lot of stuff that we struggle with. We will continue to struggle. We will continue to have those moments, many of them. But as long as we continue to hear, to listen for, and to remind each other of Jesus calling our name, then we can be at peace. Then we can take the next step. Then we can live the next day. Then we can deal with the trouble that, if we're honest, we really didn't want to deal with at all. We can't fix everything. But we can heal it all by letting Jesus live in us and through us. And then as we look out into the world and we see all the people also struggling, we see them in their fear and their anger and their doubt and all of the drama that's of their lives. Perhaps we can participate with Jesus and say, it's going to be all right. Jesus loves you. And so many of the songs that we opened our worship with throughout Lent, they said, not all of them, but most of them had a line, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. The sun will be there tomorrow. Within all of our life, the Son of God, Jesus Christ, rises with us every day. And it will be all right. In the midst of the struggle, the difficulty, the pain of life, it's all right because Jesus is risen. Let me try that again. Jesus is risen. You missed the hint.